My name is Ben,
David,
Jisoo,
Daniel, and Sean.
and we'll be going over Camp David Accords.
Since the founding of Israel in 1948, there have been 4 wars in the Middle East over 30 years. October 6, 1973, the Fourth War began when Arab allied forces attacked Israel in the Yom Kippur War, the holy day of Judaism. The battle began when Arab allies successfully crossed the Suez Canal. Egyptian and Syrian troops who have secretly prepared for 4 years crossed the ceasefire line with Israel and invaded the Sinai Peninsula and the Golan Plateau, which Israel won from Egypt and Syria in the Six-Day War in 1967. After the outbreak of the war, the Soviet Union and the United States aided dissemination in large scale to each ally, which led the 2 nuclear powers to almost conflict.
why have the tables turned in a week? We, Egypt and Syria, have prepared for 4 years and almost restored all of the land in the Golan Plateau of Sinai, only to lose to Israel during the Six-Day War.
The discreet attack with 250 aircrafts and 32,000 tanks on Yom Kippur's Day was successful. However, we were informed that on the second day of the Yom Kippur's War, Golda Meir, Israel's only female prime minister, flew to the US and threatened the use of nuclear weapons if the US was not to support Israel. Now, Nixon and Kissinger may start to get involved. If the United States supports Israel, we will eventually lose.
So that's why the United States and the Soviet Union offered me a ceasefire. But don't be discouraged. The Soviet Union has and will continually support us. Also, the Arabian power controls oil. If they dare to attack us now, then they'll chase oil crisis by us and OPEC. There's no ceasefire.
It is now 1977, and 4 years have passed since the Yom Kippur War, and the world desperately needs peace in the Middle East. The price of oil has made a 4-fold increase within a year. The Israeli Prime Minister's office confirmed that the US and Romania arranged direct conversations between Egyptian President Anwar Sadat and Israel Prime Minister Menachem Begin. Prime Minister Begin visited Bucharest in August and met Nicolae Ceausescu and Lumania, the head of state and secretary of the party, and President Sadat visited Romania in October.
Camp David is truly beautiful. Look at these trees and look at these flowers. Is there anything bothering you?
The Middle East, the main provider of world's oil, is not only affecting industrial development, but also world peace. In 1955, the United States has formed a Baghdad Pact with Turkey and Iran in an effort to reduce Soviet influence in the Middle East while reducing oil prices. However, the superpowers of the Arab League, Egypt and Syria, strongly oppose U.S. presence in Palestinian territory. In retaliation to U.S. presence, OPEC nations purposely rose the oil price up to 300% by the end of 1974, leading to the 1970s oil shock. This tension in the Middle East, if left unchecked, could lead to World War III.
Can't we just invite them to Camp David? It will be such a disappointment to see a bloodshed in a place where they can reconcile again. They might be able to reach an agreement here.
Why, that's a fine idea. Invitation from the President of the United States. They won't refuse it. Honey, your idea could bring world peace. The timing could not be any better. Sadat visited Israel last year to have a talk. Dear President Sadat, I'd like to invite you and Menachem Begin, Israel's Prime Minister, to Camp David Accord. U.S. President to retreat just for 3 days. Just give me 3 days to solve all disputes.
Dear Mr. President, as I've declared in the People's Assembly Egypt, I'm willing to go to the ends of the earth for peace with Israel. If the Prime Minister of Israel agrees, I'll be happy to go. Egypt has made a lot of sacrifices as the leader of the Arab world. In the past 30 years, the nation has witnessed tens of thousands of casualties. The children have become orphans within hours, and the Egyptian army is virtually disabled. We cannot withdraw Israel from the Sinai by ourselves. Our colony can't last longer. For Egypt, reclaim the Sinai Peninsula. For the Arab League, grant autonomy to Palestine.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to Camp David. Welcome. Prime Minister Begin. Oh, Prime Minister Begin.
Mr. President.
Sit down. Have some water.
If necessary, I shall make peace with Israel. Now this fully depends on your choice, Prime Minister Begin. Despite the laborious efforts I needed among the Arab nations, I was willing to make secret agreements with you. However, you simply ignored our conditions and sought to keep what you came from the Six-Day War. Unless you listen to our side first, this meeting is useless.
We cannot agree with this proposal. We must have the approval of the Knesset, Israel's parliament. Currently, the immediate return of Sinai and the full autonomy of Palestine are not acceptable. We will consider an eventual return of Sinai over a 5-year period.
Absolutely not. If that's the case, I have no choice but to withdraw from this meeting.
President Sadat, peace is an absolute necessity for your country. Israel has lost so many. President Sadat, if you leave now, your grandchildren and their grandchildren will have to live in eternal fear and distress. Please, for the sake of your country, reconsider.
Okay.
Prime Minister?
I'm so sorry.
So, in order to resolve this issue, I will introduce the single text strategy in which I'll make separate agreements in one-by-one detail in a single document. Both of your voices will be heard in this sacred meeting. Let us, under the protection of God, achieve world peace.
I agree. We must work for world peace.
10 days later, the Israeli Knesset voted on the Camp David Accords. While President Sadat faced heavy criticism from Arab leaders, Prime Minister Begin had to answer all opposing factions within Israel. Although they wanted a peace treaty, they eventually needed the United States to negotiate the agreement.
It has almost been a year since Camp David, but there is near to no progress at all. Can any man solve this issue?
There is a legal advisor in the Department of State, Herbert Hansel. Mr. President, I believe that Herbert Hansel may be perfect for this job.
Go bring Mr. Hansel.
Yes, sir. Mr. Hansel, this way, follow me.
Mr. Hansel, I'm so glad to meet you. The world's oil price has increased by 7 times compared to the previous years, and the world's economy is sinking. I need you to help me finalize this peace talk.
Well, frankly, despite all the diligence and patience at Camp David, we may fail without the treaty. We cannot promise Egypt and the Islamic world the immediate autonomy of Palestine, but we can order Israel to return the land of Sinai fully to Egypt, and we shall aid Egypt with economic support.
But how about the Palestinian issue then?
As for the Palestinian issue, its full autonomy shall be transited over a 5-year period. Also, after self-rule authority in Palestine is granted, there will be an eventual withdrawal of Israel's military. Through this process, they shall sign the peace treaty.
Okay, you shall be next to me when I'm signing this treaty. Let's go.
Oh, sir.
The Nobel Peace Prize 1978 is awarded to Mohammed Anwar al-Sadat and Menachem Begin for jointly having negotiated peace between Egypt and Israel in 1978.
So happy I got the Nobel Peace Prize this year.
This is for Allah. Kill traitor Sadat.
Oh, who is that?
Today, October 6, 1981, Cairo, Egypt, President Anwar Sadat was assassinated by an assassination squad led by Lieutenant Khalid Istanbuli during the annual victory parade. Luckily, we were able to interview a captured assassin on site. Sir, why did you kill Sadat? And who was the mastermind behind the assassination?
Well, I cannot tell you that right now. But in the Islamic world, Sadat is a traitor who created the Egyptian-Israel peace treaty. Tomorrow, you will see in the headlines of this or serious newspaper. Egypt says goodbye to the traitor today.
Sir, we must go!
Camp David was a turning point to the Middle Eastern politics. 40 years after the treaty, relations between Egypt and Israel were certainly limited but stable, mutually beneficial, and peaceful. Camp David also set an important precedent for negotiating the peace between the Middle Eastern countries. Sadat and Begin were also able to reach their shared interest in ending hostilities. They were also able to establish mechanisms to ensure the stability of the treaty as well.
Thank you.